read the notice
Okay,
first.
here we go. All right, welcome to the Norfolk Planning Board meeting on, what's today?
April 9th.
April 9th, yeah. It's been a long day already. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is being audio and videotaped for those who wish to see it at home. I think our first order of business tonight is to address a meeting date for our next meeting that we should address. So, Rich,
This is for
would you?
Yes. You want to read it? Do you want to do that first, or
I want to do that first before we get to the North Street hearing. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the items before the planning board in relation to the upcoming election, I wanted to discuss with the board the potential of having a meeting. We originally had the meeting scheduled for May 9th, which was actually after the election. Considering having a meeting the week before, May 2nd, because we have, so Greg will be no longer on the board, Kevin will no longer be on the board.
Right.
Gary's running for the position, he'll be there.
Right.
But right now, he's sitting as a associate member for special permits. The site plan bylaw and the planning board rules and regs requires 4 out of 5 members to vote in the affirmative for approval. Because Gary right now is an associate, he's not a member to be able to sit on site plans, wouldn't be able to vote on the projects as they move past the election day. So what we're hoping to do is to have a meeting at least May 2nd, which would be before the elections, and then to help with matters, I wanted to see if in fact the board, not saying they would do this, but considered waiving the voting requirements, because it is in the rules and regs, 4 out of 5, which may help the situation. But I don't know. I don't have the answer tonight for you, and I'm not sure you could even do that. So to be more preventative would be to have a meeting on May 2nd, so that way I know coming up we have 5 Phillips Way, which is not ready to be approved by the board. Later we have 273 Denham Street, which is not ready to be approved by the board.
Tonight, you mean?
Tonight.
Yeah.
7 Shire Drive, I actually corresponded with the engineer for the applicant, and what they're going to do is request a continuance, open the hearing, and don't take any testimony. Therefore, when it gets past the election, we could have Gary actually sit as a new member going forward. So having said all that, what I'd like to do, if possible, I know to send the board if May 2nd could work.
Well, okay.
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday, just a week before the meeting.
It could work for me.
That's really you. How about May 1st? I know the 30th is candidates night, so that's out.
Right.
How about the 1st?
Greg and I had a retirement party that night, so I don't know if that's really going to fit in with everything.
Well, you go afterwards.
No, the 1st is just fine.
I could work the 1st, yeah.
The 1st. All right. So, well,
Okay.
we have want to make a motion and set that in place right now, and then we can
Yeah, go ahead.
slide into the agenda.
Someone want to make a motion to that effect, please?
Well, just to
Change the date.
From May 9th to May 1st.
Motion to change the planning board meeting scheduled for May 9th to May 1st.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So next on our agenda is 113 North Street. And Aaron, I believe you need to read that into the record.
In accordance with the Town of Norfolk zoning bylaws, planning board rules and regulations, and NGL Chapter 40A, planning board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 9th
Oh, no, wait, April 9th is tonight, sorry. I got confused. 2019 at 7 p.m. in room 124 in the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts, on the application of Dana Willard for the approval of a definitive subdivision plan entitled The Ox Pasture. Plans by Dunn McKenzie, Inc., of Norfolk, Massachusetts, dated December 15th, 2018, located off of 113 North Street. Subdivision is proposed to have 3 lots. There's also an application for a stormwater management permit for which a public hearing will be held concurrently. See Assessors Map 20, Block 71, Lot 22, in the R3 zoning district. The property is owned by Marguerite J. Carlson Realty Trust, 113 North Street, Norfolk, Massachusetts. Application materials are available for public inspection in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during regular office hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Okay, good, thank you.
So, if I might, sorry, just before we get started, they'll make a presentation tonight. There has been a peer review done with Beta Engineering. There are comments from department heads. We actually do have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon to kind of go over those things.
Mhm.
So this will be an overview, take the feedback from the board and then the public, and then we'll go from there.
Okay,
Good evening. I'm Brian Weiner, a civil engineer with Dunn & McKenzie. Again, we're here for the Ox Pasture
mhm,
subdivision. It's one parcel that we're proposing to have is 3 parcels. There's 2 existing houses on the parcel now, and we're looking to have a 3rd home added to that piece of land. If we could go to the next sheet, I think it shows it a lot more clear on what we're proposing. And so there's an existing home right here that has access off North Street. There's another existing home to the rear of 113 North Street, which has access through the other
mhm,
driveway of the home that has fronts North Street. And the proposed work is to add a roadway, which is, essentially a driveway that would provide access to this existing home in the back rather than go through the other property. And we would also add a new home off this new driveway. And we're looking at an 18-foot roadway driveway with a cross slope where we would have a grass swale, country drainage to a low point, and then there'd be a culvert that would bring the stormwater to this natural low point, which is where the entirety of the site drains today. So we establish the same drainage pattern with the proposed versus the existing, take advantage of that low point, and we'd have this country type drainage system, keep things simple. The only piping would be a culvert that brings it from one side to the other. The goal is to clear as little as possible, keep this natural, and so what we do is only clear enough just to get that pipe in the inlet flow. And other than that, we would keep it natural. We've done what we can to keep the grading limited as much as possible. It's entirely within the right-of-way that's shown. And we have a basic profile here that shows, so we have a grade coming off North Street up at 1%, and then it transitions to 2.4%, so there's a slight vertical curve. And this detail here just shows the cross slope. It shows this grass swale that'll be on the south side of the new roadway. As far as new utilities, again, one drainage pipe crossing. We'll have a new water service for this new house, and we'll have new electric service for this new house. And that's
underground?
Underground. That's the basics of the project. We have other sheets with construction details, but this gives you the overview of what we're doing. So again, 2 existing houses, we're adding a third and making it simpler for access to this rear house. There's also, if you look through the peer review, there's an existing garage over here that has been here a long time. So all of the homes here, they'll all be part of the same family. And so I know there was some comments about the garage might be non-conforming, the way that it was set up. And they understand that. The goal is to keep it as is, because it's been there for so long, and it's part of the same property that the family will continue to use. And a lot of the comments had to do with waivers, whereas we don't have a traditional roadway with curb and lights and so forth, where we have the country drainage approach. It's very similar to just a widened driveway.
So when you say country drainage, you're talking about a low-impact drainage?
Exactly,
Did you
yes.
do a drainage report on this?
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we submitted a stormwater management report with all the calculations.
And that works, the soils work?
They do. So what up in this area, you have Group A soils, and then it transitions to Group B soils. In this low point, it's Canton, fine sandy loam. So good soils. We did test pits over here, where the proposed septic will be for this house. We had consistent with the soils mapping. We went down 11, 12 feet.
How long is the roadway?
It's just under 400 feet. It's 395 feet.
18-foot road, did you check with the DPW on that? Because right now, we're widening roads that are 18 feet where 2 trucks can't pass, or a fire apparatus in a vehicle without stopping. We have one over in Lawrence Street now that we're bringing up to 24 feet that is currently around that.
We didn't. We filed it, and we'll need to get their review and comments. We have a shoulder on each side of the pavement, so it gives you an extra 3 feet on each side if it's really tight. But I think between the shoulder and the pavement, and the fact that there's one house in the back, and we have plenty of sight distance. I think we can make it work with how we show it, as long as it's acceptable to others that are reviewing it.
So are there swales on the side of the street for the runoff?
There are. So there's a cross slope to the pavement from the north side to the south side, and on the south side we have a swale during the length of the road to a low point at about station 0 plus 50, and then we have a head wall with a 12-inch pipe culvert that brings the water that runs off on the south side of the road as well as the roadway itself, and brings it to this low point where it goes today.
We had the same thing here on a road over by the airport. We have no curbing on the side with the swale. You have the potential of the runoff undermining the asphalt and getting in there. And is this going to be a town-accepted road? Is that your intention? Oh, it's not. It's going to be a private road? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because over time, and some of them, they have with the ice and the snow and the rain, some of the runoff coming down undermines the asphalt, and you get sinkholes where the edges all start to break down. So in the past, I think we've had something like a foot or so of crushed stone along the pavement area to act as a buffer, so the runoff wouldn't undermine the edge of that roadway, but that becomes less important if it's not going to be a town-owned property.
What's the earth removal situation here?
I have to run the calculations, but it's showing a fill, or slight fill coming in from North Street until about halfway up the road, and then there's some cuts on the side. I don't know the exact quantity I need to
Is it,
figure that
you
out.
think it's a balance, or?
It's close to a balance. The the only cut is the side slope area over here. I believe it's below the threshold for the earthwork permit, but I can confirm that.
Is that, I can't tell, is that area wooded right now where you're putting the roadway in?
It is,
So you're gonna maintain that
yes,
as much as you can?
yes.
This-
Yeah, we've been able to get the grading and match it as close as we can so that we don't clear outside of the right-of-way.
Okay.
We can maintain this natural area. And really, you'll just see a driveway opening and some clearing at North Street.
Okay.
Does the old road, is that just obsolete? You may have mentioned it before and I didn't hear it.
So there'll be a section of the old driveway that access the back lot, and yeah, this would become obsolete.
It would actually go away.
We have to, one of the review comments was to, work out a construction detail where we come off of the new roadway to transition to the house, so we didn't show that level of detail, but we will.
Is that why, Rich, the beta isn't here, because you're gonna have a meeting beforehand on these issues?
Yes.
Okay, good, okay.
Any other questions by board members?
No, mine.
Aaron, you okay? Anyone in the audience care to comment or ask a question? Please use the mic. Go ahead.
Donna Jones, North Street, but not in a butter. Also have spoken to Doug Williams, the director of Mass Audubon Stony Brook, who is in a butter on 3 sides. Could you go to the other pages, like page 5 and 6, that had a big...
Yeah, sheets
Well,
5
what
and
is that
6.
yellow? And on the
This
next
is,
page, the pink.
This is a pre-development subcatchment map. So the yellow, those are part of the drainage calculations. That's the catchment area that drains.
And then the next page, that same area is a
And-
pink.
Yeah, so the previous drawing was pre-development. That's existing conditions, the watershed that drains to the low point, and then for post-development, it just showed a different color. It's that same catchment area, but we've broken it up into smaller areas to reflect the house lot, the roadway, now that it's changed. And so that's how we're able to do our drainage calculations, looking at the two different, mapping the pre-development and the post-development. The colors don't have a lot of meaning. It's just how we showed it.
And what are the 6-sided figures with numbers inside?
These are, so this is a symbol that represents each subcatchment. It's just a graphical way of numbering them.
Catchment of
Ca-
rain?
No, it's the area that drains to a particular location. So, for example, this outline, it all drains to this low point, whereas number 3 over here, it all drains to the pavement and the swale. Number 2 drains to the pavement and the swale, and it kind of shows how we built our model of how we direct the stormwater to this point. So if you follow the calculations in the map, it gives you an understanding of what's happening with the calculations.
So this back section, like right at your left shoulder,
Yeah.
it is not to be disturbed. That's it.
Correct. So everything this side of the sub.
No, I meant
Yeah, no, the back, that back will not be touched.
and that's wetlands.
Correct.
Wetland resource, right?
Correct.
Partial
Remain the way it is.
Yeah, partial wetlands and.
Sir, just for
Oh,
the,
I'm sorry.
no, for home, you've got to use a microphone when you speak. Identify yourself and use a microphone, just for the audio and video that's being taken care of. Go ahead, repeat what you said.
Yeah, my name's Jay Wood. I'm one of the, my mother lives in the property right now in the, existing parcel 1. I grew up there. The back part of the property is not to be touched. It's existing mixed wetland and regular property, non-wetland. And in the current plan shows that 2.5 acres is to remain open for recreation for the 3 parties, and there's no development. I'm not sure as far as that, but nothing's going to be done.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm Eric Carlson. I live on the property, and just so that to add to what Jay said, the property is to say the only disturbing back there is the replacement of the house that's back there. Nothing else will be touched, and it's to remain the way it is for our enjoyment.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Mass Audubon really appreciates that. We want to be good neighbors, and if there's any concern, we can put up signs on the border that say, private residence, no trespassing.
Not worried about it.
Yeah, I think the existing. So, I'm sorry, Dre Ward again. The existing Audubon trail that people take from the nature center down the street actually goes on part of our property right now.
And then, Eric Carlson, we have no issue with any of that.
Yeah, no.
All right. We've all agreed to, when the deeds are done, that single house, no other. I mean, if somebody wants to put up a shed, by the laws, by the zoning laws they have to, they can do that. But we've all agreed to single-family homes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else you want to get done? Okay. Okay, so any other comments from members of the audience? If not, then we should close the hearing and continue the hearing, excuse me, till next meeting, right?
Yes.
So we need a motion to do that.
Motion to continue until May 1st.
May 1st, yeah.
At 7
Do
p.m.
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
See you on May 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Good luck tomorrow at your
plan.
meeting.
Good job. Start to move towards low-impact drainage. Good plan.
Yeah.
Right, Jim.
Very confrontational group. It's a good way to start the meeting.
Yeah. All right. Just about, yeah.
That goes a lifelong Norfolk resident.
Yeah, yeah. All right, next item up is 7 Shire Drive, stormwater management permit, earth removal permit, and special permit. Initial hearing, it says?
Request for continuing.
Well,
Yeah, so
request for
just
continuance, right?
Yeah, so you just open the hearing, read it, and then take no testimony, continue to
Right.
May 1st. We'll try to-
So, Eric, you're up.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass GL Section 48 and the Norfolk zoning bylaws, Section F11. Public hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, at 7:10 p.m. in Room 124 at the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts, regarding a site plan application for property located at 7 Shire Drive, Lot 21, Shire Industrial Park in Norfolk, Massachusetts. The applicant, Mike DeLuca of DeLuca and Sons Landscaping Inc., Franklin, Massachusetts, is proposing construction of a 6,000 square foot warehouse office building with associated parking and utilities and grading as depicted on provided plans. The applicant is also requesting a stormwater management permit, earth removal permit, special permit to allow an outdoor storage facility exceeding 1,000 square feet as specified in D1E1 of the Norfolk zoning bylaws. The property is located in the C1 zoning district. Reference Assessors Map 18, Block 69, Lot 1 through 4. The plan and application are available for public inspection in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Okay, so we have a request for continuance, correct? So we need a motion to continue the hearing until May 1st at
7:10.
7:10.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Very good. Thank you. Next up is Craft Beer Cellar, 17 Pine Street, sign special permit initial hearing.
I think we've got some samples.
Of the sign? Of course, you meant of a sign.
The sign, of course,
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Eric. Aaron, you need to read it in again. This is a short one, huh?
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass GL Section 40A and the Norfolk zoning bylaw, Section F9A18, that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, at 7:20 p.m. in room 124 of the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts. 4, Better Than Soup, Inc., DBA Craft Beer Cellar, Norfolk, relative to a special permit application to allow a building-mounted storefront sign at 17 Pine Street, Suite A. The total area of the sign is not more than 36 square feet. The site is located in the C1 on-off highway zoning district. Reference Assessors Map 26, Block 81, Lot 14. Application materials are available for public inspection in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during regular office hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Thank you. Aaron? Okay. Who's here to speak for that?
That would be me.
That would be you, okay.
Someplace I need to stand?
Any place you like, as long as the green light's on, the little,
Hey, it's a green light.
there you go.
Hi, I'm Andy Lippett. I'm the owner of the store over at Craft Beer Cellar. Thanks for entertaining this idea. So,
Sure.
the basic problem is every day, probably that we're open, somebody comes into the store and says, "How long have you been here? I live right down the road. I never knew you were here." And I think much of that has to do with the fact that our sign is about 125 feet from the nearest passing car.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very, very difficult, unless you're looking for it, to see it.
Right.
So what I'm proposing is something that would make the letters a little bit more visible to passing traffic. Folks that make signs tell me that at 125 feet, you want letters to be 15 inches high to be easily visible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's possible without going well beyond the scope of what's currently allowed.
Right.
But what I'm asking for is, instead of a 2x10 sign, a 3x12 sign, so I can put slightly larger font up there and hopefully have fewer people surprised the fact that we're there.
How would this sign at would you say 3x12, compare to other signs on the front of that building?
Well, that's a great question. They're all currently the maximum allowable sign
Which is
size,
2x10.
or some variation thereof that would add up to the 20 square foot
Yep, yep, right.
designation. So the photo here is provided by the sign company, and they're essentially just trying to show what the difference would be. So on the left is my current sign in its current size, and just to the right of that is a mock-up of what it would look like with a slightly larger sign. I think that unless you were looking for the differences, you would probably not spot the difference. So I'm pretty sure that that would be acceptable to the overall scope of what the rule is about, which is you don't want anything too ostentatious and big. I get that. But it would allow me to put slightly larger lettering on it, and hopefully, as I said, be a little bit more visible.
It's interesting, just looking at those two pictures, even though the sign on the right is larger, the font that's chosen on the sign on the left stands out a heck of a lot more.
That's true, and one of the unfortunate realities of my situation is I'm a franchise, and I'm required to use specific fonts
okay.
and trademarks. And
Well,
that
how did
sort
you
of-
get permission to use that one then?
That was the one that was approved at the time of my opening, and sadly, a mere 5 months later, the franchise decided that it was going to change their branding.
Can't win, you will lose, and you must play, huh?
Yes, sir. But so it's a much thinner looking script.
Yeah,
I believe we would be using something that's more like the option underneath it on the right.
yeah.
So the bottom right one. So that is a little bit more visible. In fact, at least the word beer will be visible.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this now, is because I'm forced to go with that slimmer looking font,
yeah.
and I want at least a hope that I can be noticed from the road.
So without making any size changes, you'll have to change the upper left sign to the new font in a smaller scale.
I would have to use that particular size of sign and try to squeeze the new font in there, and it would be a challenge to see that slimmer font, to say the
It would
least.
be, it would be less visible from the street than what you've got.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah. They can't grandfather you that one?
They are, no, I'm guessing that that would not be something that they would be prone to do. As they say, the perils of being a franchise.
Yeah, indeed, okay. Well, this is a special permit. The bylaw requires a sign to be no larger than 2 foot by 10 foot or 20 square feet, unless by special permit. So we have the opportunity to approve this if we so choose as a board. So questions from board members?
I absolutely approve. I think that our sign bylaws are antiquated. They were done 30 years ago, just on my little spiel. And I think that a lot of the signs in town are more for aesthetics rather than helping the person market their business and survive. I feel badly you can't make those letters more bold, so it's more seeable as people
Yeah.
drive by.
Absolutely.
I mean, to me, as big as you can get it, I would be for anybody else coming for a sign.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can get to, with our planner, changes in signs to make these things so that they're helping marketing these businesses rather than aesthetics or other issue like that. As I said, they are 30 years old, so or longer by now, I think. So actually, I'm obviously very for it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Gentlemen, anything?
Agreed. And if you could also start offering tastings during our 4-hour stays at 4 Kicks across the street, that would be helpful as well.
You know, we're a short walk away. And I would have brought some tonight had I thought that that would go over.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, Aaron, you have any questions? I'm sorry, but
Yes, since you asked. Just wondering why we're not looking at the signage at the street.
I'm not sure I understand.
The plaza sign.
Why are we not looking at the plaza sign? That's something that's really not in my control. That's
The owner.
owner of the plaza. So that's something that
Is there a
sort of out of
plaza
my
sign?
purview.
There is. Look, and this is what
There is.
it looks like.
There is one, okay.
Yeah, there's a small pylon sign that is closer to the street that, at least if one is to believe the folks that drive by my store, they don't notice that either.
turn around, would you take a quick look? I've
So
seen it. but-
your signage requirements
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
conform to that
yeah,
anyway?
yeah.
Because of fonts, once again?
Right, right.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm in that position where I'm trying to conform with two sets of rules, one from
Yeah.
the franchisor and one from the landlord.
All right, so with that, anyone in the audience have any comments on this? If not, all right, I entertain a motion to approve the sign as presented here is 3 foot by 12 foot.
Should we close the public hearing first?
Do we need to close the public hearing first? Yeah, all right.
Motion to close the public hearing for the craft beer.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye to close the public hearing? Aye. All right, now we need a motion to accept the proposal of the sign at 3 foot by 12 foot.
Motion to accept the sign for craft beer seller presented to us in color work order number 1-123545.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You have your sign.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Much obliged. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, is
We'll work on a draft and maybe try to get some signatures maybe Thursday to kind of move it along a little quicker.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Is it also on the docket to address the larger scope of sign regulations in town as a whole?
Our discussion Thursday? I don't know, it might be. I'll have to look and see. But it's certainly,
It's been brought up.
yeah.
Didn't we talk about it as part of the B1 zoning committee, part of the signage downtown? We should. We have.
We talked about these for years,
Yeah.
changing them
Yeah.
all over town, not just to be one everywhere.
Well, there's a lot of things that need to change in the zoning regs.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it also begs the question, I don't know what the design is.
Yeah. Okay, so we will have a decision in writing to you shortly. Rich will work on that for us and for you. Okay, thank you. Next up is 5 Phillips Way site plan earth removal permit, continued from last month.
Gonna have to report in on DRB, right? So before we get started, just a couple of points from last meeting. I know the question came up about the site plan being not expired yet and whether to relinquish the rights and so forth. So I did talk to town council. In this particular case, it worked out okay because it expired.
timing, right?
The
Yeah.
timing elapsed, so
Yep.
it wasn't an issue. But in the future, it would be good to have the person relinquish the rights to the previous site plan approval. But it didn't end up being the case here. Although in this case, it would have been even more challenging because they bought the property and it was another property owner. But needless to say, it's not an issue here.
Right.
Going forward.
Yep.
And then there was something else that we talked about. Well, I'll let Jim present it and I remember it. I'll interject.
Good evening. Jim Susi with United Consultants. We've begun making revisions to the plans based on Beta's comments. I had sent Betsy over this afternoon a somewhat revised plan for the stuff we've had a chance to address. On the basic layout plan, I believe we had 12 parking spaces before Beta's determined that we need 18. So we now have one here next to the building, a road down here to get us to 16, and 2 more in between these 2 overhead doors. We're showing the required 400 square foot loading area. And to make this all kind of fit, the dumpster originally was down in this corner. We've moved the dumpster to here, and this will now become a landscape island, which will help us add a little bit of the interior green to get to that requirement.
Where are you gonna put the snow?
I have to take a look at where we had it before. I think we were just,
On top of the landscape island.
Yeah. That's the question.
no, again, by the zoning regs, it says we need 18 parking
Yep,
spaces.
yep.
In all honesty, John, you need what, about 8? Okay, so,
Understood.
these spaces over here
Are available.
can become the snow storage spaces. Again, we'll probably just use this one here. We've got the one handicap and 3 or 4 here. I doubt we'll ever get to the point where they need the spaces between the doors. I need them down here, so we can tuck the snow there. There is a helical separated catch basin right there. So as the snow melts, it'll go into that, be treated prior to discharge. And again, we moved that over. We moved this catch basin to a location here. We just moved it up from this corner to make it work. Everything is pitching this way. Even this corner will be coming back here. So we've got the one basin here, the one basin there, to the manhole, to the level spreader. We will probably be requesting a waiver to have the underground recharge for the roof leaders less than 25 from the property line and less than 25 from a building.
Bless you.
Everyone here and one here is is really the best way to pipe everything and get it over to here. Question came up on the site distance. From the center of the driveway here, we've got about 215 feet to the intersection of Sharon Ave, and about 325 to 350 feet coming down this way. The required site distance that was on the original subdivision plan showed 200 feet either way, so, you know, both of our site distances are in excess of what was approved for that industrial park. Other than that, we really haven't done a whole lot. The other thing that came up was the handicap access. Betsy, can you go to the next sheet, please? Okay, you can't really see it too clearly here. We do have some spot grades at the door, halfway here, and then we hit the 260 here. What I'm proposing is a depressed sidewalk, if you want to call it that. In other words, the edge of the sidewalk will match the edge of the pavement right here, and then we'll just go on about a 5% slope up to the door, which is within the 1 to 12 that's required. And then at the throat, I did do a detail where you'll have a depressed stone across the walkway, and then kick-ups 3 feet long, and then just landscaping to the edge of the 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk.
Okay.
Again, that's about all I've had a chance to go through. I know I have to relook at the drainage.
Is that walkway ADA compliant?
It's 5 feet wide. It'll be flat across, and it's going at about a 5% pitch.
And that's acceptable?
I believe a 1 to 12.
Okay.
And the vertical is
Yep.
up, which is about an 8%.
8%, yeah,
So
okay, right, yeah.
we are below that.
Okay.
But it's not continuous? Does it stop at some point? Are there platforms, or is it not?
No, it's continuous from the edge of the pavement here all the way to the front door, and then right into the building.
And that length is how much?
It was 25 feet, I believe, no, 15 and a half feet from here to there.
And ADA doesn't require a flat landing over a
Well, there's,
distance?
no, because it's,
All right.
we're not
Just unsure.
that steep and that long. Again, I will take a look at to see, but being only 15 feet, I think we would fall under
I thought
that
15
threshold.
was good, sure, okay. And why is the notch on the back of the parking lot over there? I didn't quite notice it.
Originally, we had, the pavement was
Yeah.
squared off out here, and the dumpster
Yep.
was in that corner, but we had like 6 fewer parking spaces here.
Yep.
So with the parking coming down, there wouldn't be a way for the truck to get in to service the dumpster.
Okay.
All right, so we moved it over there because of the increase in parking, and that corner just became no need to pave it.
Wasted
So-
asphalt, sure. But you could, there's nothing stopping snow from going back there when you were,
No, the only thing, I think we go to landscape plan, I've got a
Okay.
tree and some shrubs in this corner.
all right.
But again, like we said, we only need probably this many spaces. I don't think there's a problem having the snow down in this corner. And again, with the basin in the corner, as it melts, it'll go right and get treated and then discharged.
Okay.
Other than that, it's pretty much the same site as before.
Okay, thanks. Gentlemen, any questions? Maren, you okay?
All set, unless you want me to comment on the design review board's comments.
Sure, why not?
I'm just going to read from Bob's notes, so I don't have to interpret. DRB received a presentation of 5 Phillips Way project, noted it was the same as previously submitted, but needed lights and building colors noted on the elevations. It was a new site layout, however, with the entry off Phillips Way. So I remember the conversation being pretty quick. I think it was more a formality of getting the materials noted.
In terms of lighting, is there a lighting plan in the sheets?
There is a lighting plan.
Well, Betsy has disappeared, so.
Here's the planting plan. Just quick again, we had.
Oops, sorry.
That was
No
quick.
problem. We did have a large tree in this area that now I'll probably pull into this island a little bit. Tree there, mature trees here, and here. Shrub areas around them, arborvitaes down the front, shrubs around the front, and habitat planting area off the back into that drainage swale.
I think the comments on the species were acceptable too, so.
And the lights, we're looking for the lights, right, Rich?
So just getting there.
Okay.
Okay, here's the lighting plan. So we'll have building mounted lights here, and here. Here are the light types and the fixtures. So, you know, again, around the building will be fairly well lit, but nothing is spilling out off the property.
Yep.
Or up.
Or up.
Or up, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public? All right. So what's the next move, sir?
They might have, maybe they didn't hear, but, so the next meeting will be May 1st. What I want to do is, I need to gather with you and Phil and go through all these comments, so that way we can put this in position for approval on May 1st.
Okay. All right. And we'll have a draft decision prepared between now and then.
Yeah, I'll have to have a
Okay.
ready to go.
So, I mean, you're gonna look at the elevations and make sure that all the materials and colors are noted? He doesn't have to come back to the DRB, does he?
No.
Can you email the files? And we can look at
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, if you can send those to me with the colors, the elevation.
You got, yeah, John has the people doing the building working on that.
Okay, and then we'll get to DRB.
So we need a motion now to continue the hearing until next meeting, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Motion to continue until May 1st, what are we at, 7:20?
I think so, yeah.
7:20 PM?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, 134 Main Street, site plan, special permits. We have a request to continue, do we?
Yeah, so I was playing phone tag with, unfortunately, with the owners. What they're gonna end up, what they'll end up needing to do is just withdraw without prejudice, because we've been trying to work through the sewer issue, and then we're gonna be coming into the new election, so we didn't connect, so if we could just continue it to May 1st, do it right at the beginning, and then we can take care of it.
Draw without
Without-
prejudice.
yes,
And then
withdraw
we
without-
submit,
And then they'll have to do a new
yeah,
plan.
that's right, yeah, okay.
Afterwards.
Fair enough, so we just need a motion to continue here, right?
Yeah, May 1st.
All right, so that's, Chair will entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue 134 Main Street to May 1st at 7:30.
I think that's where we are, yeah. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And we'll see those fellows next month, or at least get a letter to withdraw without prejudice. Next up, 273 Dedham Street, site plan and stormwater management permit continued from last month. And we have a couple of points. We have someone in the back there waiting to, they're out in the hall? They're out in the hall, okay, all right.
Before we get started, similar to this, we gotta, we're gonna have to, Jim, we're gonna have to meet with Beta, we're gonna have to crack through all these issues, because we gotta line this one up as well, because of, we're up against the election. By the way, for the record, I did get these updates today, so Beta will have to go through them, so just.
That's the most recent No, there should be a 4.9 set.
For later. For 8 o'clock.
Okay.
It's hot off the press.
Like I wasn't confused enough.
No, we're not talking about that now. We're on 273 denham.
Good
Okay.
evening again, Jim
Yeah.
Susi with United Consultants.
Deja vu.
As Rich says, we have completed all of the revisions per Beta's review letter. We did resubmit the new plan set, the drainage report, a letter addressing all of Beta's comments,
That's okay.
O&M manual, all the stuff that Phil had asked for. So basically, from the last time, we had taken and shifted the building forward a little bit, staying outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. We had amended the parking to be along here. We've only got 2 spaces here, and we need the handicap space for the door in this location here. We got some spaces here, handicap for that door, and an island with some spaces there. And we've got some spaces out here in the back. I think there's 6 spaces for the vehicles that will be worked on inside the building. So we've done away with the parking in front of the building as much as we could. I believe we do have we have a request into the zoning board for.
Yes, we have a special permit.
Microphone.
Good evening, Lisa Whale, an attorney for the applicants.
The green light?
It is on.
Thank you.
We submitted a special permit application with the zoning board to allow the parking in the front of the building.
Yep.
And I believe we're on May 3rd or 1st?
May 1st is what I was told.
May 1st then,
Yeah.
yes. So.
Same night as us, yeah. Right. Well, maybe you can skittle from one meeting to another and tell us what happened.
Yeah,
I'll find out what time they schedule their hearing, see if we can coordinate.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
What are you doing about combining the 2 lots? Wasn't there a need to combine the 2 lots?
There are, in fact, you can see in this plan, the line between the
Yeah.
2 lots
Yeah.
is gone. We have prepared an A&R plan to be submitted, so that now we're talking about
1 lot.
1 lot instead of lot 4 and lot 5. We are now dealing with lot 45.
That's the plan we'll be endorsing.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, the question is, how are we making that happen?
Oh, Jim just gave me the A&R plans to submit, and I have the application ready to go, so I'll be submitting that hopefully within the next week.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, again, one of the issues prior was the display area was right down in here, almost to the property line. The regs require it to be 20 feet back, so this corner is 20 feet back from
Yep.
the right-of-way line. It'll be a crushed stone permeable surface. Can we go to the next sheet, the drainage plan, please?
Yeah.
Okay, in the prior submission, we had a rain garden here that was taking the roof runoff and going there. And we had a dry basin in the rear here. Beta said that they would prefer underground recharge. So we went out and did soil testing in 5 locations, and we now have 3 underground recharge areas. One is strictly just for the roof. This one here will pick up the catch basins on this side of the building and tie in, and this one will pick up the 2 basins we have there. All of the catch basins are helical separated catch basins, So all of them provide 80% TSS removal and oil separation so that we don't have issues with anything. And they're all, outlet manholes are all tied together, and that will go over to a level spreader in this area here, which will dissipate the water over 75 feet of width. One of the things that Beta did ask, and when we get in a little further to the detailed pages, is that the outlet on the level spreader have a like a curbstone lip to it so that it would remain flat. And so when we get into the details a little bit, we do have a I think it's a 9 or 10 inch wide granite stone laid on its side with riprap on the downside of that so that we don't have erosion from it. During the 100-year storm, the water coming over that will only be about this high. So it really shouldn't erode anything out to the wetlands. With the infiltration that we have, we've greatly reduced the runoff, both rate and volume, coming off to that area. We've shown the water services coming in here. We got a 2-inch domestic service, 6-inch for fire. Whoever's going to design the fire suppression system may change the size of that, but right now I've got it in as a 6. Gas will come up and go to this corner of the building over here, and the electric will also come up in over here. We've got that rather large landscape island over there now, so these really shouldn't be visible in that area. Again, septic system is still in this location. That's where we had done the original soil testing on it. So we've added some interior green to it. I think we're up to around 8 or 9% with this island, this large island, and the island over here in the back. So I think we've, we're over the 5% required for the green space. You want to go to the next one, Bets? Okay, here is the landscaping plan. Again, one of the comments from Beta was they wanted the shade trees spaced out a little bit more. I believe we were somewhere around 20 or 25 on center. We've moved them to 30 feet as they had requested. So again, we have a bunch of fir trees in this area here to dress up the front of the building. Shrub bed coming up the side, shrub bed coming along in here. Shrubs on either side of the dumpster to here. We have some arborvitaes for screening in that back corner. We've got some dogwoods along in this area set in like a zigzag pattern. And then we've got a large habitat enhancement planting area to take care of whoever may be living in the wetland area.
What species are those trees out front?
We've got American plane tree, red maple, red oak, and star magnolias.
They're close together. Too close to the street trees. So we spaced them out even more. Yeah. What do you think?
Cut them down.
He's talking about making the trees spaced out
Yeah,
farther, but
Well, again, Beta had suggested the 30, so that's what we went to. Again, basically their business is landscape equipment and whatnot, so we're really trying to make the building look appealing to the customers that will be coming in.
I think it's fine.
Okay, I'm happy.
One thing that did come up is the requirements say that we need to put a pedestrian walkway along the frontage of the building. In this particular instance, it isn't really feasible because you've got the wetland pretty much right there and it's a steep slope coming from 1A down into the wetland. So it really isn't practical, and again, there are no schools, churches, playgrounds, any of those things in the vicinity that would necessitate having the sidewalk there. So we have requested that waiver.
Is there a sidewalk on either side of
Well, it's
the
good,
property?
I believe there's a sidewalk on the other side
On the side of the street?
of 1A, but nothing on our side. So even if we were to do it, it'd be the sidewalk to nowhere. But I think Concom would seriously push against having us build a sidewalk in that area.
Okay.
Next. Okay, this is the erosion control plan. Again, we've got erosion control with 12-inch wattle, backed up by silt fence, backed up by a construction fence. That will start in this area here, pretty much wrap the entire site down to here so that any activity happening on the site will not end up in the wetlands. We do have rather large, temporary sedimentation pond for during construction. And again, it's just outside of the driveway and the paved area, so we should be able to build the entire site and get the binder course down. And then we could just take care of removing that. It's not like we got to move it to finish off the project. We can get everything done with that in place, and then do the grading and whatnot that's required on the back and install the level spreader.
Do you guys have a front elevation?
Pardon?
A front elevation?
You don't have them with you tonight, do you?
No, we have.
Oh, you have them? Okay.
Yeah.
Again, we had met with design review on this project also. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, good looking. Right.
I think you guys did a really good job with the modifications you made to the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, a tough lot to work on, but
Really will enhance that whole.
All
area.
easy ones were built in the 70s, John.
okay. Questions from board members?
Well, let me start with comments from the DRB.
Yep.
Again, I'll read Bob's notes. Introduction to the site. Two-story component would accommodate 4 tenants. The front element was proposed to be a 2-story element of gray hardy panel siding with a burgundy roof. The side and rear portion of the building would be clad in gray insulated metal siding. It was noted that all materials and colors need to be noted on the elevations. Parking was noted as located on the side of the property along the property line with a post and rail fence and a sliding gate fence in the front of the property line. So again, it's just to make sure all of the materials are noted on the drawing so that we can hold you to account when it gets built.
And that should be okay because there was a member of the architect there at the meeting, so.
And I think it was generally, you know, it's a great project, so.
Yeah.
We have
Good. Anyone in the audience care to comment or ask a question? No? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Are we set, are they meeting with them in a workshop?
I need to set up a workshop, yeah.
So we can't close.
So are we closing or no, we're going to?
No, I
don't think so, yeah.
I'd love to
Ada
close,
hasn't had a
but-
chance to.
Yeah, that's
review
what I'm saying.
Revisions, but if we could do similar to 5 Phillips, we can get together with Phil after he's had a chance to digest that one and this revision. We should be able to go through it and get it cleaned up so that we can close on May 1st
Yes,
and
all
you
right.
guys could render a decision.
So we need a motion to continue to May 1st.
Motion to continue 273 Dedham Street to May 1st at 7:40 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
See you next month.
Great,
So
thank
we're
you very
trying to
much.
meet next week, Jim?
Let me give you buzz because I should have,
Hopefully you might go on vacation.
what's that?
Might go on vacation, right?
But I figure if I can get the 5 Phillips stuff done, because that wasn't as big of a, as this, let him digest it, then we could sit down and go over whatever's remaining on the 2 projects. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is Cranberry Heights definitive open space subdivision hearing.
So we did actually, so Betsy made a new copy with all the pages for the decision.
Okay.
But also, what I think to make it a little bit easier, well, so I could follow it as well as you, we'll put it up on the screen to go through it because
Sure.
it's color-coded and obviously.
Yeah.
Doesn't come out that well in black and white.
Yeah,
No.
so gets lost in translation.
I think it's fair to say we've been working on this decision, draft after draft, over the past few days, and hopefully we're pretty close to the final language.
Did you folks get the decision?
Yeah, they did.
You got it, John?
Yes, John McTurnan for the applicant.
Do you want to, John, do you want to touch on your 3 main points there and then work back? Does that make
Sure.
sense? Okay.
If we could put up the water line installation
Yeah,
first,
sure.
maybe? Because in that workshop, you know, we did come to an agreement, I thought, on what we were going to install and what it was going to entail.
Yep.
Okay. The town is going to extend the 12-inch water main through the Lawrence Street Bridge project. We were going to pick it up at the end of the Lawrence Street Bridge project, bring it up to the corner of Cranberry. We were going to get a test, hopefully, by the fire department at that point to make sure that there was enough pressure that would handle Cranberry, Eagle, and the subdivision and the remainder of Lawrence. And if there was sufficient pressure, then we would bring that 12-inch from the corner of Cranberry up to Cranberry, through our development, back down Eagle.
What size, though?
This would be 8-inch.
Yeah, right. I thought you said 12. I think you
I
meant.
might have, but
Yeah.
that's 8-inch.
Right.
And when we get to the corner of Eagle, we'd bring the 12-inch back to connect up to Cranberry.
Right.
We agreed to reclaim this portion of Lawrence up to Cranberry and base coat it with a monolithic berm
Yep.
and do the same thing to both Eagle, Cranberry, and
And
Eagle.
Eagle, right.
So they'd all be
With a binder coat.
look like finished with a binder coat
Yep.
on them when we're done.
Yep.
So, you know, that was the main part. There were some other concessions that the town gave, we thought, and one of them was to reduce the amount we had to put in the open space fund from $2,000 per lot to $10,000, and then we would have an HOA which would contribute annually for the maintenance of the open space. Now, the open space is 16.8 acres, and it has several trails through it. So we thought it's perfectly adequate, the 10 grand plus the 21 houses paying an annual fee would be able to maintain that open space.
Who was that agreement with?
Yeah, where did that come?
That came from the workshop meeting that we had.
They don't have any jurisdiction.
No, I understand, you know, but this is where we worked out
I understand, John.
what we'd do.
Well, I-
You know, I'm not saying it's an
No, I
agreement for the
understand.
board.
Okay, all right,
I'm
good,
just saying,
good.
we
Because,
just put it on the table
Right,
when
we-
they were asking for more pavement. We put that out there, and actually, we had sent it to Rich, I think, the week before. He had asked for a series of things we needed in order to do the looping.
We actually had done this setup, I don't know the exact numbers, with the young man behind you on his subdivision, Norway Farms. And using the open space monies to maintain the open space trails, et cetera, was a great idea, and we know it's done, but the same amount of funding goes in. I forget what you did to, we had some type of cross-checks on payments and funding going in to make sure that the amount goes into that fund.
Yeah, his is Norway Farms, which is tied to lot releases, 2,000 per lot.
Weren't they gonna maintain the open space?
And then it's, yeah, there's a similar to this one, there's a conservation restriction that is, the homeowners association holds the land, and then the conservation restriction is over it.
But they're still paying the 2,000 per lot.
They did still pay the
In
2,000.
theory, that 2,000 per lot goes for affordable housing.
Yeah, it would set a precedent, you see, because if we did this for you, we'd have to do that for every subsequent open space development that comes down the road. So we did hear you. Now, I arrived late at that workshop, so that may have been discussed before I arrived, but I didn't hear it discussed there. Not that I'm saying it didn't, but I just think that, gosh, I don't think we can do that. John is right. I don't think we can do it. We didn't do it for the gentleman behind you, and I don't think we can do it for you.
Is that a bylaw or a regulation?
It's in the,
Is that a bylaw, open space bylaw? If it is, we can't waive it, as you know.
well, let me check. Continue on, I'll
Yeah,
check.
so what's your third point?
Well, you know, we were counting on that when we were being pushed to do more paving and more installation. That's all. I mean, it's a small part of it, but yet it is a part of it.
Yeah, I understand. All right, okay.
And otherwise, I think, although a lot of the approvals, there were some difficult conditions in that we could agree to them all except for that one and the one that came in late regarding the blasting. You know, we wanted that to read that we'd have to abide by all the state and local regulations. You know, we feel that, you know, we're becoming a solution to this area. We understand that there's some concern about PCBs and other contamination across the street. You know, if we go forward, at least everybody will have the option, if they want to connect to town water. And if they need to sell their house presently, you know there'd be some reluctance for a lot of people to move into this area unless they knew they could get town water. Even if the well proved fine right now, you know, there's no telling what might happen in the future. So we feel, you know, we're becoming a solution to this. So,
did you guys give a blasting plan that was promised last time?
no, we did not.
The solution for someone to spend the money to connect to their house when it's a third of the neighborhood's up there is a partial solution. It's also 5, 10, 20,000 to go through to connect their house, as you know. The problem here is, which has been the problem since Abbeville, we have a tier 2 site loaded with contaminants, loaded with arsenic. We have deep water wells there, and we want blasting. Now, the Board of Health chairman had talked to me, and I guess it was agreed before, if blasting was to be done with the neighborhood, that they would have some say. That's their jurisdiction, it's not ours. So they reserve the right to analyze the test pits when you guys go to blast and where you go to blast and how deep you go to blast, and look at the situation from their perspective, because it is their jurisdiction. Hoping with the blasting plan that you got, it may be in areas where the blasting wasn't so intense that you may be able to hammer some of these things, avoid the blasting, and not start to create veins in the ledge. Unfortunately, John, with everything going on there, that is at the start of it, and there's already a major problem, it's a real big issue. So if something happens and that groundwater is contaminated and it's flowing that way also, and these people have 2,000-foot wells, we're blasting God knows how much, which is why I would have liked to see the plan, that becomes a real big problem. It is and I understand for you, it is a risk, without a doubt. And I see where you're coming from, but Then again, if something's blasted and all of a sudden there's contamination in the wells, it's a whole different issue. Now there's a rush to get all of these people connected and everybody on Brett Farm Road and going down Lawrence Street. It's a problem.
Although there might be a rush to have them connected at some other time.
It might be anyway.
If
But
nothing
the
happens.
blasting may precipitate it if the blasting is deep enough and in the wrong spot. That's the whole issue. When he is going to present to you folks on something he mentioned to me about wanting a baseline test done on every well. Not for pressure, not for output, but only for the type of contaminants that they may or may not have in their well. So if all of a sudden there's blasting done and carcinogens start to show up in their well or excess amounts of arsenic, then they've got a baseline to go from. And the whole thing, it's subjective, it's all unknown, but the fact is, right across the way, you've got a Tier 2 site that actually could change designation if his PCBs become more involved in a bigger area. So it's tough. But I think your spiel with that, it's not our jurisdiction. You should be talking to the Board of Health, which you might want to do before we even close up
And
this hearing.
you think they have jurisdiction over blasting?
Groundwater. They're controlling the Abbeville testing, and the Board of Health controls groundwater. That's their jurisdiction. So if there's groundwater contamination across the way, they're now getting all the reports from the LSPs on the testing going on in that area. They're the ones that are on top of what's going on and what the latest results are. So when you go to blast from them, they will have a record of what's been found, what's going on, and the status. So you've got to tell them you're going to blast this area, this amount. They wanted to review that. So it might not be a bad idea for you folks to go to the Board of Health and just go over that whole thing, the potential scenario with them.
Would they do this testing?
Pardon me?
Would they do the testing?
It seemed to me that he thought that no.
Okay.
Which is why I thought you should talk to him.
And we put that point that you should talk to him in number 66 when we get to it in the.
Who do we talk to?
Tom Gilbert, head of Board of Health.
You should have a meeting with the Board of Health just to go over the blasting. That's why if you had a plan showing where you were doing it and how much, that would be a help.
Well, it would also help the neighbors to know what's coming too, which is the issue that came up last time.
Right, we didn't do the blasting plan because we couldn't get agreement as to what needed to be done in the neighborhood, and, you know, we continue to spend money around.
The Plastow across the way did that same plan for the Board of Health.
But now that you have, now that you have the water defined, your blasting plan within your development should be pretty much known, shouldn't it?
Yes, you know, we don't think there'd be probably blasting in the streets. We'd hammer most of the time when you're putting in a pipe in the street, you hammer, unless you really find some real difficult spots.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is a location in the subdivision where we think there'll be some blasting near the cul-de-sac.
I mean, any of the blasting that's even anticipated in there is, it's not like it's mass rock, it's not like it's any, I mean, with drilling and blasting, you have to be at least 8 feet deep to begin with, because it can't hold the charge down. And we don't even anticipate that we'd be more than 10 feet with anything, if we even hit anything. I mean, you know, the question was asked of us, do we expect some blasting? Well, nowadays with, as somebody made a comment in an earlier plan, all the good land was used in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, I'm the optimistic one, and I would like to say there's no ledge in here, but I doubt it. So, but we don't, none of our cuts that we're doing are anything that would be more than an 8-foot, 10-foot depth. So it's not even like it's, you know, I'm sure we could meet what the Board of Health might want to hear. But we just didn't, we didn't think, we're given this report, this thing today with the Board of Health, today, virtually today.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And,
We talked about the blasting last time.
yeah, I know, but what's bothering us is to have the responsibility of all this stuff, what's going on, something that's over 1,000 feet from our property.
I understand.
And we're certainly not going to have an effect on that, but to get in the 99th hour is just frustrating for us.
Yeah, it's frustrating for us
This
as
whole
well.
thing has been a rush to get this thing done anyway, so.
This has been plenty of time.
Well, I don't think we're going to resolve that here at the table tonight, but we would like to go through the rest of this language if that's agreeable to you, and see if we can't make sure that we're comfortable with mutually comfortable with the language in the decision.
I think we're going to just withdraw. You know, that, we're not agreeable to go to the Board of Health and do that testing. I mean, we've done more than we thought we could do, and we thought we were being a big help to solve the problem across the street. And now, you know, if we go ahead with this, it looks like we'll be blamed for the problem across the street, and we're just not happy with that. So I think I have a letter we're going to withdraw with prejudice. So, thank you.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
We got two.
The letter, I will read, it says, Norfolk Planning Board, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. RE Cranberry Heights subdivision dated April 9th, which is today. Dear Board, please be advised the applicant Bella Rosa Stables LLC hereby withdraws its application for subdivision approval with prejudice. Signed, Bella Rosa Stables LLC by their attorney, John F. McTiernan. So, anyone in the audience care to comment at this point or ask a question? Donna?
Donna Jones, not in a butter. What does with prejudice mean for the
Rich?
project or the public?
Rich, you can explain that if you would, please.
Well, as best I can, that project is functionally dead.
I think she's asking for the distinction between
Prejudice and
without
non-prejudice, yeah.
They can't come back.
They can't come back with the project.
So can you just clarify then what happens to that?
Correct.
So I believe they had an agreement to purchase the land if they were going to get this project approved. So I can't speak for the buyer or the seller, but in an instance like this, then that purchase might not go through because they don't have approval for the subdivision.
They told us that the purchase and sale had an expiration date of May 3rd. So most likely it will expire.
So
then
the site might go back up for sale, find a new buyer, then they would have to come back to the board if they wanted to develop it, and we start from scratch with a new buyer. You guys want to approve the?
I'm sorry?
Do we have to approve the motion?
Should take a vote to accept it.
Yeah, vote to,
Go back to read it or no?
no,
Yeah.
Vote to withdraw.
Accept it.
yeah. All right, so we need a motion to, pardon me, to withdraw, pass it over to me if you would, please. Thank you. To withdraw the application for subdivision approval for Cranberry Heights development with prejudice,
So moved.
per the letter from John McTiernan dated today. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Jeez, I thought we had it too. I thought we had it. Okay, next on our agenda is 102 Cleveland Street, 15 Fruit Street, Estate Lot. Permit, an A&R plan, continued from last month. Sir.
So you should have in your packet a request for continuance to the next meeting.
Yeah. So we need a motion to continue this hearing until the next meeting, May 1st at, must be
7:50.
7:50, okay?
Motion to oh, that's it. He's got it.
He's too quick, isn't he?
So moved.
Yeah.
I can second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
102 is postponed until next month. All right, next item on our,
You did a motion. Yeah, you did a motion accept the withdrawal, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we voted.
All right, thank you.
all right, next piece of business is Bristol Pond Estates. Discuss status of completion of subdivision. You want to
Sure.
lead the discussion here?
So I had some correspondence back and forth with some of the residents in Bristol Pond Estates about getting the subdivision completed. And some of them are here tonight. They submit a little petition outlining some of the issues of their concerns relative to what
Yep.
needs to be done.
Mhm.
I did have some correspondence back and forth with one of the owners, and what's that?
Are the owners here today?
They are not. Not the subdivision owner, no.
Did you ask them to come?
I did. And I think you have some emails. Should have some. Essentially, the email, to summarize it, says that they are in the position to finish the subdivision. They have told, there was an update that he had sent an email, Mike Rosano, a few months back, I think it was January, February timeframe. One of the houses, which was, I think, 10 Bristol Pond Estates, I think that was the address, maybe not, but that's sold. There's another lot in the development that is on agreement to be sold. He mentioned that with those two sales, he's in the position to move forward with completing the subdivision. I know the residents have grown impatient to get the project complete. It's been quite a long period of time. So I think the best, I mean, I don't want to speak for them. They'll speak for themselves. We do have, just as far as, we do have a performance bond in place with Safeguard Insurance.
In the amount of?
Right now, the bond is $237,000.
Can I see a copy of the components of that bond? Do you have it?
Sure, yep. And there's
Is it tri-party?
no, it's a performance bond with a surety, the insurance bond.
And the surety bond's in effect?
Correct. There's
When was this last updated?
the update to the punch list. The last update was October 2nd, 2012. There was a revision prepared by Professional Services Corporation, PC, for the planning board. When at that time there was a request to reduce the bond from 368,
That's
somewhere
not
around
for
there.
the landing.
Yeah, down to this
Can I
amount.
see the components of that one?
Sure. Yep.
So this was updated as of when?
2012.
7 years ago.
Now, I do know, just from correspondence back and forth, is, well, they all know, they live in there, but the subdivision plan, there's a pretty extensive amount of plantings that were part of the original approval that was off on private lots, which needs to be done. I did discuss with Mr. Rosano that if he's not going to perform
to do those plantings, then he's gonna need to come in to get a modification of the subdivision, which he realizes, which in turn, he'll either need to meet with the homeowners on the different lots and come up to some resolution, but he's gonna have to make a modification, because those were part of the original approval.
Yeah.
The plantings. There is no intention not to modify, which was part of the original. The islands and the landscape, the open space areas, those are still, need to
About
be
that
done.
big area that, as you come in with the big.
That needs to be planted.
Is there a planting schedule for that?
There is.
Do we have
It's all,
a copy of it?
yep, we
Because right
do.
now, there's about, I think there's 3 or 4 hop-dead river birch. So there's an extensive planting for that.
There's an extensive planting plan for that whole area out front. And we do have money being held for that plan, but it hasn't been executed. So as you can tell, I mean, it's languished here.
The bond number is
low.
dated back to 2012, right?
2012,
Some of
yeah.
these prices are low.
Yeah, very low, sure, at this point, 7 years has gone by.
It behooves the developer to complete this themselves rather than the town completing it at prevailing wage rates. They'd end up paying a lot more, but I went through the subdivision this afternoon. And the biggest thing is that he's not in compliance with his NIPD's permit, which means all of those grass strips are not stabilized. There is probably 1,000 feet of gravel berm there that's going into the drainage system, which is against the rules. So immediately, that should be loomed and seeded. And I'm disappointed myself, being here for 6, 7 years. When the recession was in its prime and he only sold a few lots, we worked with him with the promise that once the lots started to sell, he would ratably fix some of these repairs and update it. Well, right now, he's got 2 lots left and very little, if anything, has been done. And so I think my time from working with him is all over. I think something has to be done immediately there. I think that we should have a definitive schedule of the tasks that have to be done at a date they have to be done. I think we should have, did PSC do the write-up?
Yeah,
I would have PSC go back out there and do an updated cost to complete, because a lot of the curbing that was put in, pots here and there, is damaged and has to be replaced also, but mainly all of that gravel berm and crap that is on the roadway unstabilized, there should not have been a lot release until that was done. That's part of the law. So right now, he's a non-compliant. So I think that him not showing up here just to address this, as of course these folks here weren't here, but the other board members, and before your time also, you were here, Walter, we worked with him every step of the way. And we gave him every leadway because we're in the middle of recession.
We did, yeah.
And now we've got the biggest real estate boom in years for the past 7 years, and nothing's done. So, I mean, that just shows that I don't think he's still willing to work with us or hold his end. So I think that I would suggest, and I'll let everybody else speak, I would like an updating of the cost to complete to
Yes.
see really if the town has to pull the bond, make sure we're covered. And number 2, I would like the developer to at least respond and give, maybe have Bob McGee, because it's mostly his area, get a schedule, a fast schedule of everything being done. Because right now, with 2 lots left, that could be finished and have everything done, make sure by at least this summer.
Yes.
So this will be done with.
Done by
because-
Labor Day.
Exactly. And we have a schedule so we can actually earmark what task should be done at what day, not just have it all done by September. So I think maybe we can have Bob ask him to put up a comprehensive schedule of the tasks that had to be done and when. But before that, I would suggest that PSC go out and update it, because I know the tower payments, the tonnage and the street trees and that are all underpriced now on this. So, quite pricey has gone the last 3 years or so. I'm disappointed he did not show, and I'm surprised actually too, because I thought we had a working relationship
Reasonable
here.
working relationship, yeah, right.
That being said, I yield the word to you,
I'm in support of what you've said, John. I think it's hold his feet to the fire. And certainly get the bond amount corrected, because the 7-year-old numbers aren't going to cover it if we have to end up doing it.
Yeah. Now, if we end up pulling the bond,
we're covering what's within the public realm, so to speak. So if we end up going down that road, to be able to get him to plant on the private properties, it's, might not happen. I just want to let people be aware of that. But hopefully we're not down that road. But yeah, I'll work with Bob and PSC, or maybe I can get it from them or somebody else.
Wasn't there, Jeff, weren't you the one, wasn't there a fieldstone wall, a 4-foot fieldstone wall going in from the?
That was the 2012 addition. You were
Right,
talking about the one. You actually walked.
Right.
Microphone, just for the people at home,
Did you
not for
folks
us.
agree to waive that stone wall for him?
We did. It was a safety issue at the time. We went in, I was in front of this board, actually. That was on my lot with an easement, and we did get that pulled. That was the 2012 addendum, and that was the last time that the bond was looked at, so to speak, or adjusted, right, exactly. I thought it was one time after. I'm surprised to hear it hasn't been.
Yeah.
So.
Questions from,
When was the last lot released for this development?
I don't know. Betsy might know.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
When was the last lot released?
You want to hold? I can go grab the file in the office.
Estimate, roundabout? I don't think it's been in my time on the planning board.
Years before.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
you're right. It's,
And there's 2 lots left on the property?
They're unsold.
They're
I think
unsold.
they're being worked on, actually,
yeah,
right
one,
now.
yeah, one.
I'm sorry, I just want to clear the semantics. The last lot released isn't the last lot available. It was
The last one that
last
we
lot
approved to be
Right.
released, correct?
There's 2 left that aren't released yet, right?
No, the
No,
two,
they're released.
they're released, and one's, as I understand it, you guys can correct me, but one has a house on it and it's being sold, the other one doesn't have a house on it and it's being sold.
No, neither of the 2 lots have houses.
Neither of them have houses, okay.
Sorry, Jen Wolf, 7 Bristol Pond. So I believe one of them is under agreement, and the
Yes.
other one has not been sold.
But I heard it was going to be under agreement in June, is what I heard.
So there were 3 final lots. One of them was sold, one of them, the lot is under agreement, and then one of them, the lot has
Still
not been sold.
remains not under agreement, okay. Thank you.
So the lot being under agreement, does that mean he's not going to build on it? He's just selling the lot to be built on by someone else?
Don't know. I think we should get that across.
2015.
I think that we should insist that the developer come into our next meeting, Rich, when we have the cost to complete in front of us.
Sure.
Work schedule, and just get his feeling on that.
If I could, one thing I did want to mention, John, you touched on it with stabilizing the areas with the loam and seed and such. We're quickly approaching the end of the planting season. You know, we get into May, beyond that, you're not going to be planting, you're looking at autumn, fall, you're going to lose another growing season. So, as you touched on, I think the schedule should be aggressive, but it also include the plantings and get those in while you still can, because we are quickly running out of time as far as being able to do that.
Right away.
Right.
And the looming and seeding.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that drainage all running down to Stony Brook to the ponds?
No, it's all infiltration, John.
It's all, so it's not going anywhere?
Yeah, I think there's some outlets, but overflow. So, but I can tell you right now, the storm scepters have probably never been cleaned.
So you probably have some dirty catch basins there, because the dirt's just running in there.
And the storm scepters themselves that are in the open space. I don't think they've ever-
If, I'm sorry, but you gotta use the mic.
Okay.
Just touch on what John said as far as the NIPD's permit goes. I mean, as far as the maintenance of the infiltration area and the storm scepters themselves, the particle separators, I don't think they've ever been touched, at least in my knowledge. So.
Yeah.
Quick question, Charles Iacono, 18 Bristol Pond Drive. The common area where there is the large 2 trees as you pull in, if you have to go and do the course of action that you're talking about, can we talk a little bit about the completion of that space? Because that's a large part of the curb appeal to our neighborhood.
Sure is.
And I can't speak for all of my neighbors, but the process that I went through to get permitted to build the house when we bought the land and we used a private builder was quite extensive, and we banked on the entire plan kind of mirroring what our house was going to be built at and what it was going to be valued at. And I'm concerned that if we have to pull the bond and the money's not there because it's based on a 7-year, discounted rate, because it's 2012, landscaping prices have gone up as well as shrubs and all that stuff. We're never going to get to that point because there's no irrigation in that, and then we're just depending on Mother Nature to make sure that that flourishes in that regard. So can we talk a little bit about that completion of that space? Because it's such a big part of the valuation of our entire, one, neighborhood, but then also two, personal property.
Presumably, the plan indicated what was supposed to go in there, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What should go in there?
Should go in there, yeah. But the question.
Yeah, what I was.
The question of the money is.
All right. Yeah, two questions. Large question. One is relative to money, but then I was talking more about the plantings on the lots.
Boundaries between the lots.
Between the lots that were on that plan. That's on that open space.
Yes, no, and that's one of the challenges that we have all had for the individuals who have bought property from the Nasuti Trust and then had our private builders build on the lot, or had a builder build and then families bought. He's indicated that he's not responsible for that. But those conversations never took place in the negotiations of the acquisition of the land, nor did it take place between builder and the real estate trust. So it's to my understanding that he still owes me a number of trees.
Real estate is all statute of frauds. If it's not in writing, it's no good. So basically, if it's not in writing, he's gonna do it, or if it's in writing, he's gonna do it. We should find out if hopefully this will all be cooperatively done and fixed up in our right time, but I think in the meantime, you might wanna, because there's 3 lots that have not been passed on yet. You might wanna talk to town council, and where it's a performance bond, with a surety bond, we can go to the bank and tell them we're raising the price. With a performance bond, he'd have to pull a whole nother bond, which we're gonna have him, hard to force him to do that. So I think that in that case, we should talk to our town council and see if the town is stuck for any extra cost on the roadway, if he's not cooperative, if we have any rights to attach the property to make sure the roadway's covered. Just to find out.
Yeah, no, I will do
Again,
that.
if things go
So,
sour, and hopefully they won't.
well, granted, I'm not an attorney, planner, but I did say to Mr. Rosano that those plans that are on your private property now were part of the approval. Now, whether or not, contractually, at least from a planning board standpoint, they approved the plan with plantings in between there. So, right now the position is he has to plant them. If he doesn't, he has to get a modification. So, irrespective of the, the agreements between you and him, he still owes those plantings.
Absolutely.
So,
Without a doubt.
now maybe you might have to sue him potentially to get those plantings because they're on that plan. If he doesn't do it, I don't know. But I did say to him, and that's kind of the discussion, that if he doesn't plant them, he's still held responsible. He's got to request a waiver of it now. So, to relinquish that responsibility.
Rich, following up with what John said, if we look forward to a worst-case scenario, which we hope we don't have to face, and the attachment of at least one remaining lot that's not sold is available to us, if town council so says, then we ought to move on that, or at least get the paperwork set up so we can move on quickly. If he defaults, we don't want him selling that out from under us, because that's, other than the bond amount, that's the only leverage we have, right?
So I think I'll talk to council about the idea of revoking the lot release.
Ethan's house is under agreement.
Can
Lots
be
under
held.
agreement, can be leaned.
Okay, all
Sure.
right, okay, all right.
The first thing I'll ask him about revoking the lot releases on the lots that haven't been sold yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's easier.
Yeah, okay.
I would just like to say one more thing. I've been there for 3 years, and I know some of my neighbors have been there for much longer, and it has, for the record, on behalf of the neighborhood, we have tried countless times to talk and to approach him and to be proactive about this. So I can't tell you, John, how happy I am personally, and I know I can speak for my entire family, that you guys are taking a hard stand on this, because it has not gone without effort on behalf of everyone here, with a lot of frustrations with the non-response, or curbing's coming and plantings are coming and the road is going to be fixed. So thank you. We appreciate it, because
Well, it's particularly frustrating when you've worked with a guy and thought you had a quid pro quo going and it doesn't happen. That's frustrating.
Yeah, and I actually did get to see some of the
older correspondence on this stuff through emails through the office. So it's
Yeah, I will add that Rich has been helpful in this process as compared to the previous planner we had, so I appreciate that, Rich.
Other comments, questions from members of the audience? All right, well, thank you.
You want to put it on for
Yeah,
May 1st?
Yeah, we will put this on the agenda again for next month. All right, next up is 7 Hill Street, request for site plan, minor modification, extension of site plan, and special permit decision number 2018-03. Who is here to speak to that? I don't see it.
Good thing you're here next time.
We can,
I know, I feel like
pull
this
that
is
one
just,
and
we just
move on.
photocopy this.
See if I can.
It's pretty much the same meeting.
you got something there, Rich?
No, yes and no, actually. So today was today was a fairly hectic day relative to trying to get things done. So Mr. Quigley called me 3 separate times to try to get an update on this particular item, because I did send him an email that I know when you and I were reviewing the agenda last week, you thought that this rose to the level of requiring a public hearing. So I did actually send him that email last week, and then he called me today to get an update, and I left a voice message with him, but obviously he's not here. But I know he's not here, but it might be worth some just general discussion about this
All
to,
right.
to provide some guidance. So,
Yeah. Well, the drawing that you have up there is what he's just resubmitted.
right.
And the original one, I have a paper copy here, but you must have it as well. Looks similar, but is different enough, in my judgment, to say, hey, maybe that's going to affect the piping for the septic system and the drainage, and I want to see what they propose to do to make sure that everything works underground.
So what he has done is he originally had 18 units. He's scaled it down to 16 units.
Yep.
After
Yeah, that's the original there, right?
what he's also done is he's changed it up to where he's added a 1-car garage to the units. They didn't have that previously. It was just on pavement parking. And then the corresponding infrastructure was downsized accordingly to what was there. I believe that was the approval he has from the Board of Health, was for I'm not for sure. I have to check with, we didn't actually discuss that, but the Board of Health, I think it was for 16, but,
So the plan set that he sent us included the septic and drainage?
well, it includes the drainage. I think the septic was on those. The septic was on there as well. I think it's a complete plan set.
And it's different than the previous submission.
It's really hard to go over it without the engineer here to explain
Yeah,
to
I
us.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but I'm.
So the detail of it, obviously he would, again, we didn't correspond, so he didn't want to come tonight with his engineer.
Yep.
But the larger issue, the fundamental start point with this is, does all those changes warrant a public hearing to modify this approval, or can it be done with a modification through the planning board
A minor
without a hearing, right? A non-hearing modification, a minor modification, if you will. And that's really the
question.
the question.
Well, my instinct is that it ought to have a public hearing, but I don't know what the other members of the board think.
I can't even speak about it unless we get the engineering and just have Jamie give us the details. It could very well be relatively nothing, but I don't know, so I
Yeah,
really
okay, all
hold my
right.
comment.
Yep.
I guess I'll speak for the design review board too, but the changes look substantial, especially with the addition of garages. It's probably worth seeing. I don't know because they're not included with this submission, so it's hard to say.
Yep, okay. Well, we'll move on then and put this on the agenda for next month, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is Tailwind Circle, Norfolk Landing subdivision. Review and endorse as-built plan for street acceptance request and a request for bond reduction. So, sir.
So first up, you do have a bond reduction. Bob McGee.
Yep. From 109,
125, yep, to
26.6.
625. The applicant has presented the road for acceptance as a public way. The Board of Selectmen will be discussing it next Tuesday. What we do need tonight, hopefully, one is a vote to recommend for acceptance to town meeting, subject to finishing the punch list that Beta has prepared for the project, and then as well as addressing some of the DPW comments.
For which town meeting?
For May. So we're close. We might be able to get it done. We're going to meet a meeting out there Thursday with Barry and Ron Nation from Norfolk Development to go over it. There's really not that much.
Get the as-built and everything?
Yeah, we do have the as-built. Yep.
Was it reviewed?
It has been reviewed by Beta. The one issue we're going to meet out on the site is the from Tailwind Circle through the drainage easement out to the open spaces. Just had to put a pathway in there. 'Cause the pathway seems as if it was kind of concepted before the final design was relative to the drainage, so we need to kind of best fit the pathway in there, and so we're going to meet on site to discuss that. And there's some minor stuff from them, but I don't really think going through the Beta, I think we got a shot here. I mean, here's what I like to do. I like to
Go ahead.
do it subject to meeting all those things, and if we can, and we're okay, we got a meeting on, May 1st and even up to town meeting, go forward or not, because I like to try to honestly get some of these
Yes,
roads
yes,
done,
sure.
so we don't.
Okay. So propose the language that you think is appropriate here, and we'll see if we can make a motion to that
Okay.
effect.
Is it on the warrant already, Rich?
Yeah, there's a placeholder there. So.
Right, that we can always, if the work's not done, we can always just say
Yeah, just-
no, because the
Yeah.
work isn't done.
Right. Yep.
So be a recommendation from the planning board to the Board of Selectmen to recommend acceptance of Tailwind Circle, subject to completion of the punch list in the Beta report. I think it's date.
Kevin, I recommend that.
The DPW.
when select-
I'll write myself a note,
Every
yeah.
year.
You remember that for next week?
Down to one, and then there was one.
So you gotta be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, seriously.
I think that's fine, I just approve it, and if the work's done, we're all set. If not,
Agreed.
he can go in the fall.
So DPW's letter is dated April 5th.
It's not in the packet.
Want to hold a second? We give you the date on the Beta one.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me.
John, is that for official use only? It's a resident.
Oops, sorry.
Watering hole.
vodka, by the way, too. It's not water.
Need to get a kegerator in here from Craft Beer Cellar.
We're gonna hurry up, we're gonna need a break. I know we are.
Uh-oh.
Well, why don't we take, oh, never mind.
March 29th, 2019, Tailwind Circle as-built review, and it outlines the findings and what needs to be done.
Okay.
And there's photos.
All right, so we need a motion then to recommend acceptance, subject to those conditions. So someone want to make that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
You have the language captured, Betsy? Okay. All right, so all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Very good, okay. Island lighting.
They're also looking for a bond reduction.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Bond reduction. We need a motion to reduce the bond from 109,125 to 26,625.
Motion to reduce the bond for Tailwind Circle, Norfolk Landing subdivision to the amount of $26,625.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. What's next here? Island lighting and power. 14 Shire Drive. Discuss interim as-built and modification to obtain permanent certificate of occupancy. Certificate of occupancy.
Voter United tonight.
Yeah.
Good evening, Rick Goodrow with United Consultants here with Jared O'Neill, Jim O'Neill, and Jim O'Neill from ILP Realty, owners of the property. Do you have the plan? Yes. I do have paper copies if
Sure.
members would like them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You want the big one?
No, I'm fine. It does.
You want a small one?
Lost a lot of weight.
Okay, sure. We'll have the paper copies, so we can work from that. Not sure if any of the board members have had an opportunity to drive by the site. Majority of the work has been completed. We were in here about a year and a half ago. And at that time, we had filed a interim as-built plan, met with the board, and they had allowed the owners to move into the building. Some work hadn't been done, which has now been completed. We've itemized that in our list. That included the installation of the slope granite curbing, the top course of the asphalt paving, the parking striping was completed, fencing was installed, looming, seating, mulch, and ground cover was installed. Site plantings were placed. A guardrail was installed at the retaining wall, and the frames, covers, and grates of the utility structures were set at finished grade, and that was done prior to the paving being completed. We had noticed and gone over with the board previously some additional, some items that we just pointed out again that were departures from the approved plan, and they were the 5 parking spaces located on Sharon Ave to the east of the entranceway were located approximately 3 to 5 feet from the original location. That was due to some site conditions, ledge, site grading, that were just relocated. But the number of spaces proposed were in fact installed, 5 spaces. Original proposal included some parking lot gates that would be placed in and around that area where those 5 parking spaces were. The entrance road coming in to the south and heading north from Shire Drive, as well as in the area of the entrance to the west, southwest of the building. Those gates were not installed. Portions of the fence were slightly relocated, but in general encapsulates the area to the south and east and north of the site, running along Sharon Ave, then along the abutting properties, and then again running along the parking lot on the Shire Drive side, just for a point of reference. Additionally, some privacy slats that were originally proposed, primarily from, it's labeled on the northeast corner of the site, chain link fence with privacy slats.
Yeah.
And then the chain link fence label is just shown to the west of that, so that's where the privacy slats had ended, and that was done to provide some visibility to the front of the building and the landscaping that was installed in that area. You know, and that fence is installed behind the walkway, so the fence in fact is installed, just the slats were not installed.
Will they be?
They're proposing not to install them.
Well, that was an issue, as I remember, for screening the storage area in there in particular.
Right.
Pardon me?
The storage area is screened.
Well, if you drive up Sharon Ave, you can look right through the fence in there, right? No?
It's not where the equipment is. The screened area stops. Go ahead, Jack.
So on the corner of the building, on the corner of the site as you come up from across the police station, the screening on the fence runs down all the way past the storage area. It stops at about where the building and the greenery and the trees and grass all extend down to the 3-car garage.
Okay.
It just, I mean, for us, we have the slats, we bought them just as Colonial was putting them in. We're like, you know, hey, we like to see the neighbors, and it looks nice. We irrigated the grass, it's green. We put in some more shrubs than we had to, and it makes the place look, I think, greener and more open, so.
So all right, fair enough. How many feet of slatted fence did you not install?
Probably about 2/3 on Sharon, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but we were supposed, the original plan said put in X feet, and you only put in Y feet. I don't know what those numbers are.
100 out of 300 maybe is installed.
About a third, huh?
Yeah, a
Rough-
third
roughly.
installed, yeah.
But the remainder, you know, the easterly property boundary, and then running from the east to the west around lot 1-7 and down that side, and then the south side of the southerly parking lot are all fenced in privacy slats, correct? From this corner here, all the way around.
So the roughly 200 feet that weren't installed merely exposes the side of the building,
Yeah.
essentially, right?
The front of, the front of the building.
No landscape.
Yeah, and the landscape, right, yeah, okay, understood.
Took me a long time to build that building. I like to see it when I drive up there.
It's a good-looking building, it really is. You
Yeah, the
done a nice
beauty,
job
the
with it.
building is quite nice. The only thing, critical comment to it is that the slats don't really do the job, unfortunately. You know, the screening, they're up, you can see through them. One of the questions I had, I guess, is one, across the street from you, Titan, put in that fabric behind the back of the slats, so it actually creates an opaque barrier. I don't know if you consider maybe putting that up, so it really acts as screening, because when you drive by, you can see right through the slats to where all the equipment is. I agree about the building, it looks great, but then the back area where you have all the equipment, you can see through those slats. Not really.
I think Trident, it looks like a prison, you know? It's dark, it's black fabric. I don't know what's on the other side of theirs, but I know we have grass, we've got some shrubbery that kind of climbs a little bit, and I think we keep our stuff pretty organized and neat, and it's an industrial park, so I mean, I don't want to be closed out, you know, I don't want to look out my window and see black. I think, you know, it softens up the place, and I think it complements.
So your office is in the back, and you look through that fence where the fence is right now?
No, office, no, just generally driving around the building, you know, just being.
I was just talking about the fence you have up there now, not additional fencing, but.
No, I think the fence is there.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just a point taken. It really doesn't do the job. It's good to
Yeah, I
kind of
understand.
make them, you know, as we go forward, it just really doesn't do the job.
Suggestion for the next project.
Yeah.
Because of gaps? Is that?
Yeah, there's just, it's not a, there's gaps between the slats. It's not a, you can,
Is it a chain link fence with aluminum slats?
no,
Fiberglass.
they're fiberglass, but,
They slide down between them.
yeah, it's not really,
What was asphalt?
Yeah, they go in diagonal.
yeah, no, I'm not, yeah, I agree. I'm not saying it's not, but it
Maybe
just
the-
really is
maybe
not,
I can't remember.
to spec it out, I would not, would want to be going forward when we home in on the detail with these in the future to make sure we,
Okay.
because they don't do the job.
Continue, sir.
And then lastly, they planted some additional trees and shrubs at various locations around the site just to add some additional landscaping. So that kind of outlines the changes of what's been done out there to date. One of the issues that exist, the original proposal included 2 roof structures located easterly of the building that's constructed in the area where the edge of pavement label is. And the owners to date have not constructed those. They do plan on doing that in the future. And they're working with Eversource for some solar components to that. It's taken some time dealing with Eversource, from my understanding. Not that I'm sure the board's surprised by that. I think you're going to hear that very shortly from another applicant sitting behind me. So those are proposed to be constructed. The issue that the owners are dealing with is pressure is being placed on them to complete this, get a final certificate of occupancy. So here we are to discuss these changes that have been made through the course of the construction of the project, board's feeling for those, and then ultimately our proposal would be to in the future come back with a small site plan to address those 2 future buildings, so that this plan before you could close out this part of the permit. If the board is amenable to that, they could get their final certificate of occupancy for the building that exists, and then we can come back and deal with a site plan for those 2 future storage buildings.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I
Makes
do
sense,
too.
actually.
Yeah, they really weren't buildings as much as they were just structures, roofs on posts, right?
Correct.
So-
And we had provided you the information. It's just they haven't constructed them, and they really don't have.
Well, everything you said, excuse me, that had been done deviating from the plan presumably has been provided on the as-built?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And everything that you said doesn't raise any hackles with me. The only contentious issue, if it wasn't contentious at all, was the business of the slats, which I think we've talked through. So, yeah, I think from my personal point of view, I think we're ready to do that.
You're building those structures according to the plan, correct, down the road? So when you finish building them, just come back for a review of those 2 things by themselves?
Yeah, and they're ready to go. The roofs of them will have a solar component.
Yeah, just keep them
and they're in
independent of the
queue
building,
for-
that's all.
Yeah.
Just the Eversource queue.
Yeah, I know the time it takes, yeah.
Just one question for me, and I may have missed it in the description, but it says the sidewalk on the north side of the property was not constructed.
Sidewalk?
I'm looking in the upper right-hand corner. Departures from the approved plan, about 3/4 of the way down.
Oh, yes, yes. I apologize. Some of those departures from the approved plan were carried forward from a previous meeting that we had to get them a temporary certificate of occupancy in the building. So to the north side of the building, in that lawn area, we had originally proposed a sidewalk. and that was not constructed, and we had brought that forward to the board. But we've carried those things forward in this site plan so that they could be discussed again as we're nearing the goal line here, if you will.
So you're saying it was previously discussed that the sidewalk wouldn't be included and there was no objection to it?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, we talked about the building dimensions and sizes were changed, the retaining wall was added, landscaping island was eliminated, the retaining wall, the aprons were constructed at the doors. Those are all things we came in with at the interim as-built stage.
I don't think there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street, is Sharon Ave, is there? I don't,
Well, the sidewalk is on your side of Sharon and on their side of Shire. It's basically along the inner loop. This was an internal site sidewalk, not the street sidewalk.
Right, yeah.
all right, Rich, what's the next step we take here?
So I want to vote to approve a minor modification to accept the departures as listed on this plan. And then, I was trying to think of ways so you didn't have to come back for those other, and do the other piece of it, but I guess, so minor modification to approve the departures from the plan and to permit the building department to issue a final certificate of occupancy for the main building. And then, what do you call those things? What?
If I may, if that's, I think ultimately what the owners are looking for is to be able to obtain a certificate of occupancy for the building. If the board would prefer a final ad will be filed for a final closeout of the site when those other two buildings are completed.
Well, yes, but that doesn't mean we can't give you the occupancy.
Correct. If you direct the building department to issue a C of O, that would take care of you.
Yeah.
Leave open the site plan for the
Right.
future buildings. We come back with one as-built to address everything, I think.
You're saying to back out the minor modification piece of
Correct.
what Rich was
But there's no time period for when you might come back to do those buildings. So what's the downside to submitting a plan that's consistent with this approval and then coming back for minor modification to complete the original plan?
The two things that they're gonna be building are already on the plan. Am I correct?
Understood, but they're asking for occupancy. I mean, I think that I'm assuming there should be a plan filed with the occupancy permit that is consistent with what's on site.
Do you have an as-built just for the building?
That's this one.
That's
yes.
fine. So that's what they have.
So this reflects what's there today.
There we go.
That can go to the building department.
And then we have
I
an
was
additional as-built adding the two structures when they're done.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, that works.
And then you just go build those things, and then come back with a final as-built.
That's all, right, yeah.
We can then get a final
And
CMO
then-
for those.
and
You don't need a site plan or anything, just
Right,
go
right.
back to the final
I think
as-built.
that's a better way of doing it.
And this vote includes the building department to issue a final occupancy permit.
All right, so we need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Remember the conversation about the sidewalk?
Next up is Norway Farms subdivision, discuss utility layout.
Unless you guys want to just wait till the very, very end, and then.
In 20 words or less.
This is the old tree farm, the landscape. This was the
My voice is starting to go.
base where we put the $2,000 into the HOA. Kind of remember.
This is a utility plan that was designed by the utility companies, right?
No, this is a detailed plan that Rick from United Consultants did.
Right,
That's,
but the utility plan was done in concert with the utility companies. They told you where it goes.
Yes.
Right, so we're just rubber stamping this.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then there was a question about some plantings, and I proposed to put some ornamental grasses around the three sides of the transformers, and the fourth side is where the hatch is, and you need to have 10 feet in front of that per their regulations, and that's where the sidewalk would be, so there wouldn't be any plantings there.
Can we, oh, Betsy's hunting for it, all right.
Well, it's hot in here, huh?
Always is in this room, always is in this room.
Is windows open?
They do open, it is not, you wanna crack one?
Do you want me to hang around for the last vote?
It's 39 degrees outside, I'm just saying.
Yeah, just a short time, John, and then we'll be putting it back again, I think. Closing it up. Feel that?
I do.
Yeah, there you go, it'll blow you away. Okay.
So this is a detailed plan of what the Eversource had requested, in keeping with their diagram that they send out, which is very basic. And so what we have is we have one transformer here, a third one here that's on the street, and then there'll be an additional one down between the two existing buildings. And so, as I was saying, the hatch of the transformer faces the public way, so we would be planting the 3 sides remaining with some taller grasses and some shorter grasses in front of that, just to take the edge off of them.
And they're tying in to power up on Crestbrook as well?
Yes, there's another transformer up there that already has some planting on it. That was approved at the selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago. The easements were finally drawn up. That's pretty much it. I have a couple pictures of the grasses and the transformer, but
We have to
it's,
approve it, per se. I think it's just.
No, you're just reviewing it and
information.
essentially accept it unless there's some jumped out. I got a picture of that. That's a picture.
that's my existing transformer. My last meeting with Eversource said the new ones will be about the same size, which is a 3-foot cube.
Oh, there's a.
And there's I think the shorter grass that's a variegated grass.
Non-invasive.
Correct. And that's some of the larger grass that would have the flowers on them for the winter.
Yep.
Good with me.
Okay.
All good.
Yeah. All good?
All good.
We understand it? Thank you. I don't think we need to prove anything, just,
Okay.
Thank you for the.
So we're good to go.
good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plug it in.
Rob, it's like you're
I
waiting
wish it was
for,
that
you're waiting for a rebuttal line.
Thank you.
3 David Road site.
Yeah, it's next. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next item is, Rich, 3 David Road site plan.
Which, you wanna jump to 5 shot, because Charlie's here.
Oh,
Is there
okay.
a client, did he come or no? No? All right.
I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? Jump up one
Yeah,
ahead?
just go to 5 Shire since
Sounds like a deal. 5
Charlie
Shire
came
Drive.
here.
Okay.
Came here for something.
Well, it's a long meeting, but we do get time and a half after 9:30, don't we? And that's what Kevin told us, we get time and a half.
Double time. Good, push it up.
Okay.
May 1st is 7:10, by the way. Is that the next time?
May 1st?
May 1st, the Wednesday.
So I think, unless something jumps out, I did get your last comments about some duplications, Mr. Chairman, on some
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah,
I took those out.
yeah.
I did take the comment out on the, yeah, on the final hopefully version of it. And then the comments that were raised by Beta were addressed in the decision One was about getting a detail for the retaining wall by a stamp.
Yep.
And I know that's going to be done by others. Make sure it doesn't conflict with the sewer line that's going through the back of the property. I did forward the letter from 7 Shire Drive to Phil Beta, and well, with the letter from the association.
Yeah.
So I think we had everything covered up.
Have
Not
you
covered
seen
up,
this
but
draft?
addressed.
You have, okay. Any other inputs that you've got to Rich on it?
No,
Okay. All right.
no, the only one I saw was, there was something about the nippities, because previously we talked about a SWIP.
Sorry. Microphone.
Charlie Shepard from CDW Consultants. Previously, we talked about, there was a condition about a SWIP, but that lot is only 36,000 square feet, so it doesn't require it. So it also doesn't require the nippities permit.
All right. So I'm going to say we had another printing problem.
Design review, whoever reviewed it.
Oh, yeah, should we hear, can we hear?
It's similar comments that talked about the colors that were presented, but they weren't noted on the plans. There was a request to note the materials and colors on the plans, and the comments on the lighting, to show the lighting, and confirm that the light stays on the site, both sideways and up, doesn't go up.
All right.
Now, I will say, we did have another printing problem, sorry to say, because
Cranberry Heights found its way into this one too.
Cranberry Heights is in here.
Is it? Oh, goodness, where are we? What page are we?
I don't know how that can happen. It is. Cranberry.
Creeping cranberries.
Oh, yeah, the last few pages.
All right. Did the board members see the emailed version of the draft? And we can make more copies if you want, but,
No, just vote on the plan you sent us.
all right. And
This one here?
Received.
received? Okay. And we did,
Extract those duplicates.
yeah, I extracted those duplicates.
This is the draft marked final decision, right, that we got this afternoon?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah, I've read it, I'm comfortable with it, with those exceptions where the duplications have been removed, and there's no Cranberry Heights stuff.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll proofread it before you sign it.
Yeah,
I have a signature page.
okay.
And then,
So we're ready, I think, Rich, for the motion to approve, correct?
I hope so. And we have the stormwater management, no, actually, you didn't need stormwater management. Earth removal, correct,
That's a separate motion, correct?
correct, yep.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the site plan special permit application, decision number 2018-08 for 5 Shire Drive.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is a vote. And we need a motion to approve the earth removal permit and notice of decision for 5 Shire Drive. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think we got what you need, sir.
Do we need to
Thank
do
you.
the stormwater management as well?
I don't know, do we?
Yeah, interesting, so we did do a stormwater management permit, although technically it doesn't need it. Not necessary.
Not necessary?
We did earth removal, we didn't do stormwater, although it was on the,
Yeah.
Yeah, we have it here. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had it in front of us for a while.
Well. You don't really need it, so I guess don't need to vote on it.
We don't need it, we don't need a vote.
No, because it's below the threshold.
Take your advice.
Yeah.
They're all set then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right. So let's see, David Road.
3 David Road.
Doing some buy two, get one frees over there, Rich.
You want earth removal permits, you get stormwater management as well.
Yeah. Well, this
All right,
one
so
looks
now
like
we
it
go
might
back
be.
to,
Oh, this looks okay.
3 David Road.
3 David Road.
How about that, huh?
It was a heck of a day.
It was a day.
It was
It was a doozy day today.
I think Cranberry Meadows would have
Yep.
liked the other decision would have to,
not over yet.
requirements out.
Well, it's not over yet. No, I know. But at least the copy is good. So we don't have. We have all the pages, which is great.
Yep.
And,
Step one.
that's good. This one does reflect the changes that you had. I did remove a couple of those duplications.
Yep.
And I did address, so the remaining beta comments were addressed in the decision, which one was about the fire flow, which we did include that in there. And then, took care of the other one. I guess the question, the one of the questions that came up from the beta was, with the stormwater management permit, the applicant, well, the manager of the property is the owner of the property, and they're going to put money in escrow to manage the stormwater system. Phil deferred that to the board, but I don't see why that would be a bad thing. Not sure. I couldn't tell you. That was his comment that we
First
had.
time I've come across it, but,
Yeah.
John, maybe you've come across it before.
No.
No?
If he wants to do that, then fine.
Yeah, I thought that was fine.
Me too.
He deferred to the board, so I kind of, my head thought there was something.
Something odd about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is, it is, since we've never seen it before.
Yeah, I guess.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it does, so.
All right.
All right. So that being said, then, everything is done.
Okay, so we need a, need a motion to approve the site plan application, decision number 2018-07 for 3 David Road.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then you do have an earth removal permit.
Yeah, so we need a motion to approve the earth removal permit and notice of decision for 3 David Road.
This is another 2 for 1.
Oh, this is 2 for 2.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good.
All right. So very quickly.
Meeting minutes, we gotta approve meeting minutes. Aaron's,
I went through them both.
yep.
I motion to approve both sets.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting minutes are approved. All right, so, Rich, you had something else you wanted to say?
Yes. So we did submit the prioritization plan for the Complete Streets program. We're just waiting to hear back from the state to get the final approval. And then next step after that is to submit projects for funding through the Complete Street program. And then we do have the community meeting Thursday night
Yep,
at the Freeman Kennedy for
7 o'clock.
Town Center, 7 o'clock, so.
Do we have to post that? Nice.
Huh?
Thank you.
All right. So you're
Posted
all,
all over the
I
place.
did one thing right today.
so we're posted.
Might have been the only thing I.
So we posted the plan.
Three different boards.
The only thing that left us open to exposure legally, so that's just fine.
So plan board's posted, the B1 committee's posted, and design review board's posted, so.
All good.
I can't speak for the selectmen though, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, the chair
just
will
have a-
entertain a motion to,
I just-
unless there's any other
Hold
new
on, I
business.
just had just a quick question,
Yes.
going back, I just want to make sure we check all these boxes.
Yeah,
5 Shire Drive, okay,
yeah, wait a minute.
we
Yeah.
approved the site plan,
Yeah.
right? We didn't need stormwater management, then we approved the earth removal, but
Yeah.
below that, there's a special permit for outdoor storage, review and approve. Do we need to,
That was incorporated into the site plan decision, it's all done as one
Okay, just checking.
Well, thank you for checking.
Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I know,
If we had other
especially
chairmen here.
today with so
Yeah.
much going on.
Line, they would let you know. We have a real decent one, so it doesn't
All right.
really matter. We know the Eagles
Motion.
win.
All right, now, Chair will entertain
story.
a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, that breeze feels good.
Cut the feed.